To all who come to this happy place, welcome.
So yesterday I was talking about the changing portraits and the ones that they actually ended up including in the Haunted Mansion, but I didn't talk about the dropped, the abandoned changing portraits that they never actually used in the attraction. So today I'm going to cover most, if not all, of the changing portraits that they never actually included in the Haunted Mansion. Some of these are present at Walt Disney World, but they don't really change, their eyes just follow you. I'm going to be talking about the ones that were planned originally for Disneyland for the original Haunted Mansion that never quite made the cut. Some of these have pictures to go along with them, most of them don't. King Henry VIII. This portrait would be a reference to real-life events where King Henry VIII would be standing alongside his wife, Anne Boleyn, and the portrait would change over time to show Anne Boleyn's head being decapitated. This was not used for, obvious gruesome reasons. The Burning Miser. A portrait of a grumpy old man sitting in a parlor chair, bursting into flames, and eventually the devil pops up behind the chair with the deed to the old man's soul. Personally, I think this does fit in with the theme of the mansion, but I think they cut it because it's a little too religious, but it has to do with the old tale of Faust, a man who sold his soul to the devil in exchange for knowledge. Daphne. This portrait would feature a young woman who transforms slowly into a tree. This is based off of the old Greek myth of Daphne, who is a river spirit or a naiad, and she had caught the eye of the god Apollo. For help, she called upon her father, who turned her into a tree so she wouldn't have to marry the god. Pretty sad, but not really creepy, which is why I think they never ended up using this portrait in the mansion. Plus, they already had 3 other changing portraits of women turning into something else, so. Dracula. Based off of the classic movie monster of the same name, Dracula was a vampire who now haunts the mansion, just not as a changing portrait. Originally, Dracula was going to appear as a man standing in the doorway who would transform into a bat as he walked by. Now his eyes just follow you through the mansion, but at least he made the cut. Rasputin, or the Ogre. Not just Russia's greatest love machine, but also a ghost that haunts the Haunted Mansion. Similar to Dracula though, his eyes just follow you as you go by. He's not a changing portrait. The changing portrait would have his eyes and eventually one eye grow bigger and bigger, representing his psychic abilities. Although Rasputin still had living descendants at the time, so Walt Disney made Mark Davis change his appearance a little bit as to not upset the family members. This portrait was probably cut because, just look at it, it's weird. The Witch of the Walpurgis, no way I pronounced that correctly. Again, she's in the mansion at Florida, but not as a changing portrait. A woman, supposedly a witch of some sort, whose head would transform into a goat. The original changing portrait also featured a demon in the background, so this one's a little dark. A lot of satanic imagery in this one, which is probably why they cut it, but I don't see the problem. The arsonist, also he's a werewolf. That's what I'm choosing to call this one. At Walt Disney World, he's just a man who stands in front of a burning village looking very, very guilty. But as a changing portrait, he would have been standing outside of a very peaceful village at nighttime and would transform before your very eyes into a werewolf. This one's pretty cool. I'm not sure why they cut it, but they did transform it into a different kind of picture, so I think that's alright. The Wilting Flower and the Farm, 2 different changing portraits that would feature a flower going from full bloom to full wilt, and a farm being decimated by a sandstorm. The Aerith, a photo of a beautiful gowned woman holding a feather and leaning on a pillar. The portrait would then change to show her holding an axe instead of a flower and revealing the ghost of her late husband in the tomb. That sounds like something I've seen before in the Haunted Mansion, I just can't quite put my finger on it. The Couple, a portrait of an older married couple that would change to reveal the woman choking the man to death. Pretty dark, but they did reuse them for Walt Disney World, so I guess it's fine. They're still in the mansion in some way. And yeesh, if you want to talk about dark changing portraits, The Lovers would feature a young couple embracing lovingly, only for the portrait to change and show the woman stabbing the man in the heart. So those are most, if not all, of the unused changing portraits from the Haunted Mansion. Which one is your favorite? Which one do you wish made the cut? Let me know down in those comments below, and I will see you all a little later.